The Gary Community School Corporation is moving ahead with plans to close several schools next fall. The school corporation held a public meeting Thursday night to allow parents to hear the details and the proposal and offer input. Superintendent Cheryl Pruitt hopes the move will eliminate a $13 million deficit for the 2014-15 school year. Pruitt is recommending closing Brunswick, Bailey, and Webster elementary schools, as well as Dunbar-Pulaski Middle School and the Lincoln Achievement Center, which houses some severely disabled students. Lew Wallace STEM Academy would be reconfigured as a citywide middle school for grades 7 through 9 with a separate freshman wing. The new Tech High School would move from the Gary Area Career Center to a separate wing at Westside. The district expects a fall enrollment of about 7,400 students. The Indiana Supreme Court heard arguments this week in the appeal of Kevin Isom. The 48-year-old Isom was convicted last year and faces 3 separate death penalty verdicts for the murders of his wife Cassandra and his stepchildren, 16-year-old Michael and 13-year-old Ciandria. All 3 were found shot to death at the family's Lakeshore Dunes apartment in Miller in August of 2007. Cherville attorney Mark Bates argued to the court that Isom's death sentence should be overturned due to various errors that occurred both during the trial and at sentencing. Justices Dixon, Rucker, David, Massa, and Rush will likely rule on the arguments sometime before the end of the year. It may sound hard to believe, but a group of 10 county surveyors are working together to find the border between Indiana and Michigan. The line was officially marked only once with wooden stakes in 1827, most of which have disappeared over the years. In 2008, lawmakers in both states helped form the Indiana-Michigan Boundary Line Commission, and each state provided $250,000 of funding for the project. LaPorte County surveyor Tony Hendricks is a member of the commission. He tells Lakeshore that while the line is known in GPS systems and other technology, finding the exact location on the ground is difficult, and that's why the stakes are being replaced. Hendricks says while the line may change the border by a few feet in some spots, no individual or property will be located to the other state. Hendricks says the group will seek bids for the first phase of the work in late June. The Centers for Disease Control is now saying that an Illinois man does not have Middle East Respiratory Syndrome, or MERS. The CDC previously reported that the man, a business associate of the first U.S. case, an Indiana man who was treated for MERS at Munster's Community Hospital, had tested positive for the virus. However, the CDC says that further tests have determined that the Illinois man does not, in fact, have MERS. To date, there has been no verified report of MERS transmission from one person to the other within the United States, though the CDC is continuing its investigation. Indiana Governor Mike Pence spent some time in Northwest Indiana this week speaking at several stops throughout the region. The governor was in LaPorte with officials from the global aerospace manufacturer Alcoa to announce a planned $100 million expansion of Alcoa's LaPorte facility that will mean more than 320 new Hoosier jobs by 2019. The governor made an appearance in Gary at the Indiana University Northwest School of Medicine to discuss HIP 2.0, the state's plan to cover the uninsured in Indiana. Governor Pence wants HIP 2.0 to replace traditional Medicaid in Indiana for all non-disabled adults. Governor Pence also made a visit to Hammond, Indiana, where he joined representatives from Amtrak, the Federal Railroad Administration, and Norfolk Southern to kick off construction of the Indiana Gateway Project. The project is designed to reduce congestion on the passenger and freight rail line running between Porter, Indiana, and the Illinois state line. Lakeshore Report's Hillary Powell has been exploring rail improvements in Northwest Indiana, and she joins us now with the latest.
This week, a project to speed up railway service in the region, which has had sluggish support since being announced in 2010, finally picked up speed. Governor Mike Pence was in Hammond Thursday to announce the Indiana Gateway Project to upgrade area rail lines. Find out why the governor says recent federal funding will make the region the top train crossroads in the state. It's a transportation mode of the past, but top state transit officials say rail is what's going to rev up revenue in the future.
We really think rail is the mode of the future. It is safer, it's more, uses less fuel, it's environmentally friendly, and the alternative is much more costly. I mean, what are we going to do? Double deck the Dan Ryan?
Headland and other state officials were in Hammond Thursday for Governor Mike Pence to announce $71.4 million to fund the Indiana Gateway Rail Project. The project is set to improve rail lines between Porter, Indiana and the Illinois state line. Pence says the project is important to help Indiana maintain its moniker as the crossroads of America.
That means not only highways and byways, but it also means rail. And we face real challenges here with a growing economy and the capacity that we have on our rail to really move passenger and freight through Northwest Indiana easily. It's going to save time. It's going to create greater convenience, but I think it's also going to create economic opportunity and growth for Indiana for decades to come.
The project was first announced in January 2010 as part of the Obama administration's nationwide high-speed rail initiative. The millions will target the highly trafficked Porter Junction, where 14 Amtrak trains and 90 freight trains cross paths daily. The Indiana Gateway project will improve 8 sections on the railway line, and officials say that means 70 fewer hours of delays annually.
Which is a lot of time for, long freight trains to be blocking crossroads and blocking traffic. And it's a lot of delay and uncertainty for people who are riding passenger trains.
Pence says regional rail projects create infrastructure that encourages more investment. Regional Development Authority CEO Bill Hanna says Northwest Indiana should mimic the spider web-like sprawl of trains throughout Chicago.
Hard to catch a better meal when you have a one-stranded web. So, this is really about strengthening the spine of the web. That has to be strong in order for this to work.
That is the same thought behind expanding the South Shore system into the West Lake Corridor. Officials from the RDA laid out the blueprint for their 20-year plan this week. They say the new train line could carry up to 5,600 riders by 2033. They're counting on those riders to be high-paying commuters working in Chicago and returning home to the region.
The current riders average about $80,000 a year in salaries, annual salaries per rider. So, these are high-paying jobs we're talking about. And there again is another way to talk about creative solutions to paying is everybody gains. These are ways that you can pay for things like this without putting into place new taxes that affect local residents.
Hanna says 17 Lake County communities have committed to helping fund half of the projected $571 million project. The remainder is expected to come from federal funds and a little help from the state. Construction on the Indiana Gateway project hits full gear this spring and is set to be completed in 2016. Faster travel options might make it quicker for residents to reach one tourism hotspot that has a new leader. Steve Walsh talks to the new superintendent of Indiana Dunes National Park.
Just in time for the busy summer season, the Indiana Dunes National Lakeshore has a new superintendent. Paul Lapovitz has been superintendent at Mississippi National River and Recreation Area in St. Paul, Minnesota. He's been here about 1 week. Paul, welcome to the show.
Oh, it's great to be here. Thank you.
So you're just getting to Northwest Indiana. What are your first impressions?
Well, it's very different from Minnesota. It was a lot lusher and warmer when I got here. And I did spend 2 months here late summer last year, so I had a preview of what working here would be. I'm really happy to be here.
Did you know much about this? I mean, it's a small park. Did you know much about it before you came here?
Yeah, I've been here a couple times as a visitor over the last 20 years. And when the previous superintendent was announced his retirement, I had requested to be sent here on a temporary assignment because I was always curious about the place. And I didn't think I was going to be interested in applying for the job here, but after 3 days here, I thought this would be a fabulous place to live and work.
Really?
Yeah.
What made you decide Northwest Indiana and this park in particular?
Well, the combination of the mix of nature and human use, this great industry all around, but yet some of the most biologically diverse plants, habitats in the national park system. I mean, it's amazing.
And when it was announced that you'd be the superintendent, it said that you had experience in non-traditional and urban parks. And what are the challenges of having a national lakeshore, a national park that snakes through steel mills and residential areas in Gary and Michigan City? I mean, how do you handle that?
To me, it's a great opportunity. You know, a lot of the national park system are remote, wild places, and a place like Indiana Dunes is not so remote, but still a pretty wild place. And so the folks that are attracted to and visit a place like Indiana Dunes are not the same folks who go to Yellowstone. And so we have a really interesting opportunity here to introduce a whole new set of people to the national park system.
You certainly get, it's a well-traveled park. It's loved to death here. A lot of people visit. But you're getting here, and your star attraction, Mount Baldy, 200-foot-high moving sand dune, is closed probably for the entire summer after the incident that happened last year where a boy was playing on the side and was swallowed up in this hole. What do we know about what happened there?
That's a good question. You know, one of the reasons why we have Mount Baldy closed is that we don't know what's happening there. And so we're going to err on the side of caution and close it and study the phenomenon there, and just to make sure that if we reopen it, we have a better understanding of what the potential hazards might be.
Do you think Mount Baldy may actually never reopen to visitors? You never may be able to safely travel on Mount Baldy? There's
a chance of that. I think it's too early to predict the outcome, but I think what we're trying to do is understand it and provide the safest access we can. We're not in the business of keeping people out of things.
All right. So you're hopeful that you're going to find the cause of this. Do you have any leads at this point?
No, being new here, I'm sort of catching up on that, and I'm hopeful that we'll understand it better. But it seems to be a very unique situation.
A very unique situation. But do you think, in the end, that this could be something that happens? We never found this anywhere else, but maybe we're going to see this now all around the Lake Michigan basin. We have a lot of dunes.
Good question. I sure hope not. It's a challenge. It's a surprise. We're working on it.
We're working on it. Well, that's unfortunately we're going to have to leave it. Paul Leibovitz, the new superintendent at the Indiana Dunes National Lakeshore. Thank you so much for being on.
Oh, my pleasure.
Indiana Lieutenant Governor Sue Ellspermann recently announced the state's plan to award more than $15 million in grants for demolishing abandoned homes and eliminating blight, with the largest portion being awarded to the city of Gary. This week, city officials shared their plan for the funds and explained just how far the money could go in a city with thousands of abandoned properties.
For Sister Peg Spindler, seeing the former Holy Trinity School building on 13th Avenue in Gary demolished will be a bittersweet moment. She spent 15 years teaching there before the doors closed in 1994. Sister Peg now serves as executive director of the Sojourner Truth House, a community resource center next door to the shuttered school.
We've been doing great work in the city, trying to, one family, one woman at a time, trying to get people off the street and stably housed. And become productive citizens of this community.
Now, Sister Peg is helping bring down the abandoned building so that her organization can expand.
A couple of years ago, as we thought about this building, we did some bids, and the lowest bid we got was like $70,000 to tear these two buildings down, and that's a chunk of change for us to raise while we're trying to keep our own ministry operating.
The group is receiving help from the city to remove the building as part of a grant from the Hardest Hit Fund.
That'll be a huge help, a huge step towards our dream here.
The Hardest Hit Fund is a federal program designed to help communities in 18 states stabilize neighborhoods which were affected by the recession and housing crisis.
We are honored and humbled to have received $6.6 million.
The state has set aside the money for not only the demolition of homes, but also acquisition of those homes and the title search, the entire process through those steps. And we also have funds for up to 3 years of maintenance on those lots.
The money will be used to demolish 379 homes and possibly more if bids come in under estimate. The city plans to begin with 20 properties sometime next month.
This also frees up our regular allocation. Typically in a year we do around 200 housing and residential demolitions across the city, and we don't have to use that funds anymore for this because all these properties are queued up this way.
Officials say a focus on hiring local workers for the projects means the grant will also bring jobs to the city.
We will have a crew that goes in and take out things that are salvageable, and find reuses for them.
From a green effort, it really makes sense. But for us, you're putting more people on staff. So instead of just taking 2 people and a piece of equipment and tearing down a house, you're paying more people to go in and find material and training them and getting them job experience.
With abandoned properties numbering between 10 and 15,000 in Gary, choosing just 379 to demolish was no easy task. The city decided to focus its efforts on larger properties and ones near occupied homes.
We all know that blight is very contagious, and to the extent you can eliminate 1 or 2 blighted properties on an otherwise healthy, stable block, it eliminates a pretty powerful disincentive to maintain your property.
We are targeting those neighborhoods that if you take away 1 or 2 homes, then you've got a stable neighborhood. You're raising the property value for those folks who are still there.
For us, it made sense to apply for the largest houses we could. And for the smaller things that we can take down for $2,000 to $3,000 a pop, we can handle those ourselves.
We know that we have to roll up our sleeves, and with any opportunity that means more work, but we embrace that work that is to come and believe that it will have a tremendously positive impact here in the city of Gary.
We're proud to be able to be some kind of a little tiny catalyst in the whole renovation or revitalization of the city. 1 block, like I said, we've been doing it 1 family, 1 woman at a time. Now maybe we have a chance to contribute to 1 block at a time.
City officials say they hope to begin accepting bids for the initial demolition work within 45 days. Up next, John Kane talks to conductor Kirk Muspratt about ending the concert season on a high note in this week's Eye on the Arts.
Hi, joining me for this edition of Eye on the Arts is Kirk Muspratt, music director and conductor of the Northwest Indiana Symphony Orchestra, a frequent guest.
Hi, John.
Hi. So we are going to talk about our special bonus concert.
Movies.
Yes, a special bonus way to end the season.
Beautiful music.
Yeah, I hope you're picking beautiful music.
Oh, yes, absolutely. And lots of things that people ask for.
Yes.
I finally get to do them again.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Good. So this is on Sunday afternoon
June
and
22nd.
evening.
Yep.
Yes. Two performances.
2 o'clock, right after church maybe, or pancakes. And then 7 p.m., maybe just after dinner. It'll be a nice way. The auditorium's beautiful, gorgeous acoustics, air conditioning by June 22nd.
That's a nice auditorium.
Beautiful. They did a wonderful job.
But it's small. It's intimate.
Yeah, it is very intimate. The acoustics are gorgeous.
Which is why we're doing 2 performances. So
yes.
more and more people can come. So what's on the program for
Well, John, what I did is I sort of went through the timeline. I started with Charlie Chaplin in silent movies with Smile, which he wrote. And then I went, to the hot stuff like Gone with the Wind of the 30s and Wizard of Oz. But I wanted to make sure we had some Cole Porter, True Love from High Society, and some Gershwin. And then we always want to do a patriotic section if it's like Band of Brothers or Hymn to the Fallen, those kinds of things. And we'll certainly do John Williams.
Right.
I went all the way back to the 60s with the Cowboys, and we'll do Superman and Raiders of the Lost Ark. And
so stuff that's familiar to contemporary audiences as well as those of us who love the old movies. Gosh, the old movie music is so beautiful, though. Max Steiner.
I know you love him.
I do.
I know, I love him too.
Well, Betty Davis couldn't have had a career without him.
That's true. That's true. That's true.
Every tear.
And he taught so many of the next generation of composers. He was like somebody they really, from Marvin Hamlish on.
Oh, did he? I didn't know that.
Yes, Marvin Hamlish talks about him all the time. Yeah.
How neat.
Well, we'll do kids' music, we'll do Anastasia, and we're doing favorites like Chariots of Fire and Forrest Gump and
on and on.
And on
okay,
and on.
Well,
yeah.
Great. Well, thank you for being here to
tell
us about
pleasure.
it. Sounds like it's going to be a fun concert. And thank you for watching. We'll be back again next week with another edition of Eye on the Arts.
It's an old school sport that has plenty of brand new fans. We set our sights on Valparaiso, Indiana, and got to visit with the Deep River Bowmen on this week's Jump in the Lake.
We do.
This is Archery 101. If I have never shot a bow before and I just need to learn from the ground up.
I like the phrase KISS. Keep it simple, stupid.
Perfect.
We want to uncomplicate things, and we want to learn correct form. Archery is basically a sport of repetition. You shoot one arrow into the center of the bullseye, and you just repeat that over and over and over again.
The 3D, I will say this, I know it gives you that sense of actually hunting, but absolutely no animals are hurt on this sport.
No, we never shoot any live animals, even during regular weekdays or anything. There's no hunting allowed out here. There's no fishing allowed out here. It's just for the enjoyment of archery. We do have primitive camping, things like that, but no, we don't actually hunt on the property.
I think that's a really important distinction to a lot of people who think, well, archery is just about hunting, when it really is so much more of that.
That's correct. A lot of archery is shot at standard targets like we saw inside. The Olympic archery is all done that way. This is just a unique game that archers can play that gets them outside in the air, and like you said, we can simulate hunting conditions without actually shooting anything.
I hit it! I hit it! Wow! Oh, I went right over the top of that guy.
Your stance up some more.
Oh.
Beautiful.
We've been in Valparaiso with the Deep River Bowmen. Gorgeous day, wonderful opportunity to check out the target shooting, the 3D shooting, and we thank you so much for joining us. Hope to see you next time on Jump in the Lake. If you want to find out more about archery or the Deep River Bowmen, you can go to our site, lakeshorepublicmedia.org, and there will be an extended version of that piece.
Okay, so gone is your name, Kristen. The new moniker is Katniss, because that was really, you were releasing your inner Hunger Games.
Actually, the bow that I was using most of the time there is called a Genesis bow, and I guess it's what's being used in schools. So a lot of schools have formed teams and do competitions, stuff like that. And if they're competing in the grade school, high school, maybe even the college level, they might be using that very same bow. It's a compound bow. It was really easy to shoot. I mean, when I say easy, it's not like I was hitting the target all the time, because I clearly wasn't, but it was comfortable and it didn't, like kill your arm after a while. It was nice.
That's interesting, because I know you're referencing the movie Hunger Games, but I've actually heard that since the movie came out, there are some young people that are getting interested in archery and they want to try it. And of course, there's some danger involved, so they have to, of course, be very careful and cautious. So.
Right, but there are a lot of schools that now have archery teams, so the kids can participate on that level. Hillary, what are you working on for next week?
Well, over the past few weeks, with audits going on a national level being ordered by the VA, the Veterans Administration, we're definitely talking to the Adam Benjamin Clinic officials in Crown Point to see what's being done on a local level as far as making sure veterans are being taken care of.
Okay, and Sarah?
Yeah, we just want to remind you once again that if you have an idea that you think we should be working on, we want to hear from you. If you have questions, comments, feedback about our show, send us your thoughts at tvfeedback@lakeshorepublicmedia.org. And you can also contact us on Twitter.
Lakeshore Report.
Yeah, so again, we want to hear from you. We want to know what you think of our coverage or what you'd like to see.
Thank you so much for joining us on Lakeshore Report. We hope to see you next week.